Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce lab by Ecomcy, the place for everything related to Amazon FBA private label and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you a very special guest. His name is Josh Hadley, and he's the founder and CEO of basically a eight-figure business. That he has so much knowledge in the Amazon space that I think the amount of content strategies he's going to be sharing today is going to be mind blowing. Can't wait for that. And he's also host of the Ecom Breakthrough podcast, which is also an amazing podcast that I recommend everybody listening and viewing this episode right now to check it out. So, Josh, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Vincenzo. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. When I saw everything you've been doing with your business and your journey so far, and where you basically are right now with the business, I thought to myself, the amount of knowledge that this guy has is definitely a lot, and I need to make sure I can get some of those gold nuggets, as they call them, to make sure we can, help those Amazon sellers out there that are in this journey to eventually, get to 7 or 8 figures. So it's a pleasure for me to have you here. Now, before we jump into all, the tips and strategies that I know a lot of people are waiting for those, I think the most important thing to, allow people to get to know you better is to learn more about your journey and, get inspired about where you got started and how you managed to achieve this eight-figure business. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So I think the most important thing that I want to convey to your listeners is that I started just like you guys did, right? Learning in the trenches. I didn't even know, I thought it would be amazing one day if I could own $1 million business, let alone, crossing into the 8 figures for us last year. And so my advice to everybody is like, you can do it, set your mind, set your goals high, adjust your mindset, have a positive outlook. And at the end of the day, it's all about the hustle. And I'll kind of dive into my story briefly, but it's a story of just like simply never giving up. It's a story of testing out multiple things, failing at different things, and just going to and doubling down on the things that are working. So I did my MBA at the University of Utah, and my wife and I graduated from the University of Utah at the same time. I actually started my career at American Airlines. So I started there and I was there for 5 years, but it was, 6 months into working at American Airlines that entrepreneurial bug that I had. I had it inside me from like a young age, right? I was the kid with the candy stand on the corner of the street. And so it's never left me. And, 6 months in at American, I was like, hey, I need to, like, what are some other ways I could just make money on the side? Like, that was the main intent at the time. It wasn't like, hey, let's replace all of my income.
Yeah.
So we ended up starting a custom wedding invitation business with my wife. She's a graphic designer.
Oh, good.
And then
I bet that made the whole thing much easier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can't attribute much of my success to just myself. Like, definitely, like, if I didn't have my wife and her creative, artistic, graphic design abilities,
awesome.
like, I wouldn't be where we are today for sure.
Good.
So yeah, that's where we got started, but we got to a point in that business of doing custom wedding invitation for clients that we couldn't scale any further because my wife was just tapped out. Like we were already booked out 6 months in advance just to work with her.
Crazy.
And
that's a good issue to have.
It is a good problem to have, but I knew that like our business, like revenue was like capped out unless I just started charging people outrageous amounts to design their wedding invitations. Right. And so at the time, I had previously tested, doing retail arbitrage on Amazon, selling my college textbooks on Amazon. So I had a limited experience on Amazon. I think I had even tried like selling a private label, like waiter pad at the time that didn't really take off. But we thought, hey, what could we do in this kind of wedding related market? And we had a lot of brides that would come back to us asking for like recipe cards for their bridal shower. And it was like, well, we can design them it takes just as much time and effort to design that as it does your wedding invitation, but you're not going to pay as much for a recipe card as you are for your wedding invitations. So that's where the idea was sparked of like, let's mass produce some recipe cards from the top, designs that brides are requesting. And let's just put them on Amazon, direct traffic to Amazon, and just see what happens. And long story short, we sold out in just a couple months, and we generated, at the time it was $16,000 in revenue in just, I think, 6 to 8 weeks. And for us, that was like life-changing in terms of, holy cow, we worked one time to design these products. The manufacturer printed them, they shipped them directly to Amazon. Now all we need to do is just click the reorder button, and that's it. And so that was the fall of 2016. And so 2017, we just doubled down on Amazon. We created 100 SKUs on Amazon that first year. And we did over $1 million our first year on Amazon, just because I was like, I could see it, right? And I was like, if I launch another product and another one and another one, that this can continue to grow. And so here we are, 2023 now, and we've got over 1,300 different SKUs for our brand, and we've just continued to double down. But I would also say, I glossed over the fact that there were a lot of times where, I lost money, like the private label, other brand I tried to start, or even retail arbitrage. Like, I just kept trying different things over and over and over again. But then the Amazon thing hit, and I was like, holy cow, I can do the math easy on this. Like, just keep coming out with products, and this is $1 million business. So,
wow. Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing journey. Thank you for sharing that. I think I love the fact that, I mean, you went through all these things that, of course, you call them mistakes and that you lost money and everything, but at the same time, I see them as a learning experience, because all these things that you did that basically generated mistakes, and all these things that basically had to do with losing money and understanding the basics of Amazon basically made the foundation of managing your business on Amazon, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And I think I agree with you. I don't see those mistakes that I made along the way as like, oh, those were catastrophic failures, I'm such an idiot. Instead, I see them as like, you know what? Those mistakes, although that they never really panned out into what I originally thought they could have been, they allowed me to get to the point where I was comfortable taking these recipe cards and throwing them onto Amazon. And
That's
then
right.
it hit, right? Had I not tried selling my textbooks on Amazon from college, had I not tried retail arbitrage on Amazon, it never even would have crossed my mind when we were having this issue with scaling the custom wedding invitation business to say, hey, maybe we take some of these and we take them to Amazon. So it's, I like to use the fishing analogy, right? Where, if you go fishing, right, you don't know what the fish are wanting to eat that day. And so you've got to cast multiple poles into the water, and you've got to try different bait out on the water. And guess what? Like, sometimes you need to move to another location. Maybe the fish aren't in that one spot. And so at the end of the day, you need to keep trying different things. But the most important thing is, if you're fishing, the only time you can catch a fish is if your pole is in the water. It's not when you're sitting on the bank, finagling with your, fishing hooks and stuff like that, because nothing happens until your pole is in the water. So likewise, when it comes to business, nothing happens until you are trying to actively like sell something. That's my main, like, so many people will sit there and just like, they'll study and listen to courses over and over and over again, trying to perfect this process. And it's like, look, you're not going to perfect the process. It is so much better just to get started, throw something out there in the water, cast your line, so to speak, and then start, innovating, pivoting off of that.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. I think the reason why I wanted to make this point is because I really can see a lot of sellers that are getting started and they see this. And when we talk about 7 figures and 8 figures, this is so impossible to achieve. And sometimes, they're in a position that they're failing. But I always say to them, in Amazon, at the end of the day, it's also a numbers game. I mean, I know a lot of people that they didn't even achieve their million after doing 7, 8 product launches, So it's something that you need to keep trying and actually doing it iterations and learning from your mistakes. And it's amazing to see that you actually went through that process, and right now you actually achieved the 8 figures. So I wanted to use that as an analogy to inspire everybody that is listening to this. Thank you. Yeah. Now, I think I want to now start jumping more around the strategy and everything that's to do with running an 8-figure business, because I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned 1,300 SKUs, right? And and when you mentioned that, I mean, to myself, my mind is floating right now, because imagine a brand already with 5, 10 SKUs is already a nightmare. Like, you get out sometimes suppression, so managing PPC and all that. I mean, walk us a little bit through about how is to manage our 1,300 SKU business. I'm pretty sure it's all around SOPs and having processes very well defined. So maybe you can give us a little bit on insight so people can get some strategy and tips out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% correct in regards to, creating SOPs and actually creating a business where you're hiring staff. One of my biggest things that I like to advocate for is, everybody talks about, oh, you just need to go hire a VA. I don't look at any of my team members. We have 25 of them now. Not one of them do I call a VA. Not one. And even from the outset, I never hired anybody to say, hey, I just need you to be a VA, just a virtual assistant. Because number one, it's too broad. The skill sets, you're not going to get somebody with a specific skill set. And so I'll talk more about that. But the main thing that I did is, like, it was my wife and I, and then my sister. She was helping me do some of the administrative tasks that I needed to be done very early on in the business. It was us for literally the first, let's see, we launched on Amazon the fall of 2016. And up until 2019 is when we really kind of started first hiring.
You were making already 7 figures before hiring.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So 2019, we did over $5 million, right?
Wow.
And so there's a, number one, there's a lot you can do by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was working full time at American Airlines throughout this entire process, right?
Wow, that's crazy.
I didn't leave American Airlines until August of 2019.
You had to have the backup just in case.
I had a $5 million brand. Now, that's not net income.
Yeah,
that's
of
not
course.
profit
For
by
sure.
any means.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I think I want your listeners to understand. Like, I use this and in general, I'm not a big risk taker, so to speak. And so for me, I use that opportunity at American Airlines as my venture capital funding, right?
I see. Like cash machine.
Yeah. And so that's what we used to live on, right? Was my salary from American Airlines. But for the next 3-4 years, as we continued to build the business, all I did was I would take the profits from the business and I would reinvest them into new products. And as you know, and anybody knows, anybody that's in a physical products business, it's a very cash intensive business. And so we're at a point now in our business where we can launch products very quickly. We're coming out with 20 to 30 new SKUs every single month. Wow. But for other brands, when we, go back to 2017, I distinctly remember it's like, okay, we could launch, 10 or 20 SKUs at one time. And then we would have to wait for like 3 to 4 to 6 months before we could get a return back on that capital enough to us to say, all right, let's go reinvest in another set of these products. And so it was a slow growth period for us. Now, I mean, it in all reality, I guess it really wasn't. Like, we did 1 million 2017, 3.5 million 2018. But in my opinion, we were actually growing slow and conservatively because we didn't take out any loans, right? All of this was just bootstrapped, and all of our salary was just coming from American Airlines. So my schedule was, in the evenings, I would come home from work and I would be working from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's like I had 2 full-time jobs, but I would sit down on the computer looking at new product ideas and communicating with the manufacturer and checking our inventory levels, right? And I did that for a good period of time, obviously. But then 2019, that's when I realized, okay, I know I can grow this business faster
Mm-hmm.
if I can create SOPs and hire team members to do some of the work that I'm just doing on a regular basis. I'd been doing these tasks of supply chain management for the last 3 years.
Like admin stuff, basically. Yeah.
I've been doing all of it, right?
Yeah.
And so, let's fast forward to, so I have this idea, but then I have this idea that we're going to kind of build out our team, right? COVID happens in 2020, right? In the spring. And our business, many of you might have benefited from COVID. Ours, unfortunately, were one of the unfortunate brands that got.
I was thinking
decimated.
that, because you had no parties, no people to basically give cards to. So I can imagine.
There's no birthday parties going on. Nobody's doing baby showers.
Yeah.
Right. Weddings aren't happening. So all of a sudden, we see a 90% downturn in our business. Overnight. We went from doing over 1,000 units a day to we were lucky to get 100 units a day.
Great.
That was scary, right? Like overnight, the business that we had built is just starting to crumble to the ground, and I have nothing to there's nothing
you can fix it,
right? So what did we do? We pivoted, right? So we were primarily in the party goods space, but as we all know, homeschooling was a big thing that happened during that time. And so we started looking at products that could possibly serve the homeschool niche, because we have children and we were homeschooling them, and we're like, hey, what could we do here? And we went into a very competitive product category. But at the time we were just like, look, this is our lifeline. Let's just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And let's just see if we can make something work. Right. Yeah. We threw it out there, and sure enough, it takes off, and it had become our best-selling product ever. Wow. And we're like, oh my goodness. It was, and slowly parties had started coming back too. So that
everything combined. Yeah.
So that helped, but it was at that point, that was about August of 2020 when we had launched that other product. And that's when I was like, all right, we're back on. We can do this. And what I began to do at that point is I went back and kind of did this time study of all right, over the last few years, where have I been spending all of my time on a day-to-day basis? Where is most of my time going? And what I realized was most of my time was spent in a project manager role, where I'm just kind of coordinating between, getting this listing up on Amazon and working with our supplier to make sure that they had shipped the product, and making sure that the copy was updated, etc. And so I was like, well, the first person I need in here would be a project manager that can simplify this process and streamline everything, because then I'm not going to forget all these little steps that that are required to create a listing. And then the second thing that I was doing, that I spent the most of my time on, was product research, right? And so those were the two roles that I hired for first. And then we immediately from there just started creating SOPs, right? Good. And those team members. So now I have a team that's dedicated to doing product research and development. Every single week, they are generating 20 new product ideas for me, right? Yeah. But this took a lot of time. It took 3 to 6 months for me to sit down with these team members and create SOPs. So at the end of the day, you ask, and this is a really long answer to your question. Yeah. You ask, what does it look like to run an 8-figure business, and how could somebody grow to that point? Well, number one, my big takeaways for you are number one, start grow methodically, right? And don't think that because I have 25 team members, you need to have that tomorrow either, right? You can get by for a while on your own, but then start documenting where is most of your time being taken up. And then can you go create a role that could alleviate, right? A team member that could alleviate all of those tasks that you have been doing. But then the next question you need to ask yourself is, if I give these tasks up, what am I going to spend my time doing? Because if I would have just sat back and be like, oh, this is great. I've got a project manager. I've got an R&D specialist. I'm good. Business is good. I can just sit back and relax. Instead, I said, if I can get this stuff off my plate, what it's going to allow me to do is
Mm-hmm.
to double down on actually doing more product research. Or in my case, it was I ended up diving further into PPC and better understanding PPC so that when we launch
Okay.
products, everything could be much more optimized. So I did that for a year. And then guess what? PPC was taking up most of my time. So I hired a PPC manager, right? And then PPC management was kind of streamlined, but then inventory management wasn't, right? And working with our suppliers and warehousing and all of that was starting to blow up. And so what did I do? Documented everything, and we
Mm-hmm.
brought on a VP of operations who actually has experience working at Procter and Gamble in their
Wow.
supply chain
Okay.
department, right? So what I've done is essentially like I've hired experts
Mm-hmm.
in various aspects to know for very specific reasons. And it wasn't so I could sit back and relax. It was so I could say, I need to offload supply chain management so that now I can do what? I'm going to now for our business focus on creating partnerships with influencers, creating kind of an affiliate program, getting published onto blogs, and even acquiring maybe some media assets, maybe some blogs
Mm-hmm.
or Facebook groups, so that we could point more external traffic to our already successful Amazon products and make that moat bigger around us. And again, so I'm just layering
Yeah.
time and time
Love
and
it.
time again, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the first big takeaway that I can take from this is the fact that you say multiple times already, which is basic, go step by step and slowly. Because I also see this issue a lot in the Amazon community, that as soon as they see, small revenue coming in, we're talking already in the four figure, five figures, they already think, oh, I need a team, I need
Mm,
so many people working this and this, and you're basically showcasing how you were 2 3 years in and you had nobody under your team besides your wife and your sister. And it's a good lesson to show, because at the end of the day I feel like, which you are also explaining, it's important as a business owner, at least you go around all the different departments that your business has and understand the basics. Because in the long term, if you're going to hire somebody that does the PPC for you, somebody that does the inventory management and so on, if you have no clue about what the person should be doing, how in the first place you're going to design this piece, how you're going to actually assess their performance, and how you're actually going to make sure you hire the right people. So basically everything go side by side. You start, you understand the basics, and you use those basics to design the SOPs and use the SOPs to hire the right people. So it's basically a staircase that you go one by one. So yeah, just wanted to
correct.
point that
And,
out.
and don't assume that I've done everything perfectly either, right?
Yeah,
Like
of course. Yeah.
I've made plenty of hiring
I
mistakes
can
along the
imagine.
way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think this is the role that we need. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, you know what? That's not actually the role we need.
Hmm.
Instead, we need a project manager. For example, like we thought we needed to hire more graphic designers in 2019. We thought that that was our bottleneck, that if
Okay.
Becca, my wife, had more designers, we could push out more designs. And it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not the issue. The bottleneck in the business is like, I can only move so fast in creating product content and putting that stuff up on Amazon, let alone purchasing inventory for those
Mm.
products. And so that's why we decide like, hey, the project manager actually needs to come first. But we made mistakes along the way. But the most important thing is like, don't get in over your head. Um, and don't just think that because somebody else has XYZ that you need that, because
Mhm.
every business is different. My Amazon
Mhm.
business is not the same as yours, and it's not the same as many others. And so, but we're all unique in the way that we structure our businesses and how we
Good.
need to optimize them.
Now, I would like to also touch on the fact that, I mean, you mentioned that on a monthly basis, you're launching 20, 30 products. For me, this already is lighting something in my head from the point of view that this guy knows how to launch products. Because
Mhm.
if you're doing this 20, 30 products per month, I mean, I'm pretty sure you have seen everything, all the mistakes, all the good things, what is working, what is not. And I would like to take some of those gold nuggets out of you, as they call them, in terms of product launch. So maybe tell us a little bit right now, at least in 2023, how a pro launch would look like for you, and what are the things you see and working the most? Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. So let's back it all the way up to product research first, right? Because that is the foundation, right? You've got to make sure you're going into a actual good product opportunity in and of itself, right? I know back in the day, even when I took my first Amazon course to learn how to sell on Amazon, everybody talked about like, oh, don't go into categories that have over
Copy
500
paste things.
reviews and
Yeah.
5 stars and make sure that the product is this size and that size. And it's like, okay, like that's all well and good, but like, guess what? Everybody else is using
Thousands
those
of people.
right? And so it's just a waste. So I don't even worry about it. And I share that because that product that became our bestseller back in 2020, we went into a extremely competitive niche. Okay. The bestseller had over 5,000 reviews, and the next top 5 had well over thousands of reviews, and they were all 5 stars. There was literally no complaints that people had, right?
So
like,
based on numbers, it was pretty much impossible to enter if you saw just the numbers. Yeah.
Anybody that looks at that would be like, you're an idiot.
Run away. Yeah. Yeah.
But here's what we did. And this comes down to like that product research. We brought something completely new to the market. Okay. We didn't create another Me Too product. What we did is we took a look at what was trending really well at home, at like school supply stores. So we went to actual like physical stores. What's trending there? What themes and what type of products did we see that are like succeeding there? Because many of them were not on Amazon. Then we took a look at Etsy. Then we took a look at Pinterest and just Google images. And what we saw was a clear gap in what was being offered on Amazon. On Amazon, everybody almost looked the exact same.
Copy paste. Yeah.
And everybody was just trying to charge $1 less than the other person, right? And
right to the bottom, basically.
Yeah, and trying to include weird knickknacks,
right? An extra pen, an extra thing, an
it's
extra
like people don't like people. I know that's like the strategy that a lot of people use back in the day.
Do a bundle and stuff. Yeah.
You just need to add a little bag and people are going to love yours because you included this little bag. It's like, no,
PDF or PDF manual or something.
Yeah. Most people think most people don't care about that type of stuff. What they do care about is like the look or the feel of that product, or how it's going to be different than what is out there, because most people want to make a statement, whether it's the clothes they wear, whether it's the products they use. They want to make a statement. That's why, Stanley mugs is one of like the most trending, like, cups. Like it used to be like the Yeti tumbler, right? But now it's this Stanley cup, and it's just odd, but it's different. The one thing that they did is it allows you to like put it in an actual cup holder in your car.
Basic stuff.
Got the skinny little, bottom to it, and then a nice handle on the side, and there's a wild market for it. I haven't purchased one, but there's a market for it, right? And because everybody else, guess what? Everybody else was just kind of trying to mimic what Yeti was doing, right?
Typical shit.
They're like, here's the tumbler. It's because it keeps the ice cool. And it's like, no, at the end of the day, what Stanley did is they said, what are some of the issues? And I'm sure they talked to customers, and it's like, what if we just created one that actually has a handle, because none of these mugs actually have a handle on them? And then what if we make it so that it's easy for people to take in the car? Because honestly, these aren't very easy to take in the car. And so I think that's where they killed it, right? So similarly, that's kind of what we did. And we saw what was working elsewhere and kind of brought something brand new to the market. And then within 2 weeks of that product launch, we were already the #2 bestseller, competing with people that already had thousands of reviews. So that's like myth number 1 that I want to dismantle, is like, at the end of the day, with your product research, go into opportunities where you are actually benefiting the market. You're not just creating a Me Too product, or you're not just changing the color of something from red to blue.
Alibaba changing the packaging, and that's it. Calling a new product.
It's not enough. It is so not enough. And I know that's what all the gurus and courses that people buy preach right now, but that's truly not enough. bring something new to the market. Now, it doesn't need to be something like completely brand new that's like you have to be
like a patent and stuff.
Yeah, you don't need like some that's like patented where it's like nobody's ever seen this before.
Yeah.
No, like I said, go to your store, go to local like retail stores and just go see what else is trending out there. And it will spark some ideas in ways that you can tweak and refine your product to meet those needs. So that's step number one.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a differentiated product,
the rest is difficult.
The rest of this conversation is going to be worthless. So that's why, again, when it came to product research and development, there's a reason why that was one of my first hires, because that is the core of our business, launching new products. That's it. That is the core. That's our priority number one in the business. And every one of our team members knows we do everything to support new product ideas to come out with something new and innovative. So with that being said, what do we do when it comes to launches? So one of my favorite things when it comes to product launches is that we do in-depth keyword research up front. So many people, talk about, hey, as soon as you launch a product, turn on your auto and broad campaigns, see what keywords work, and then move them over to another campaign of your successful keywords. And it's like, that's garbage. And you're wasting a lot of money and you're destroying your conversion rate right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So here's the flip in the mindset. Do all of your product research, right? So grab your top 10 competitors, run that Cerebro reverse ASIN search to grab all of their keywords for all 10 of these competitors. You're going to end up with about like 6,000 different like keywords. You've got to go one by one. And you're going to say, is this keyword relevant for this product or is it not relevant for this product? You go through that list one by one. Then the next step you do is you say, all right, let me take a look at these relevant products, right? And then or these relevant keywords, okay? Talking about keywords here, you take these relevant keywords and then you need to categorize them in 4 different categories. Number 1 is a shop keyword. Okay. What is a shop keyword? A shop keyword is, maybe people call them long tail keywords, hyper relevant keywords. A shop keyword is like when somebody is searching for something, it is exactly what they're looking for.
Okay.
So
exactly a definition. Yeah.
Yeah. So like in a good, like collagen peptides, right? So if you're trying to sell a collagen peptide supplement, that comes in 2 different forms. You could get the pills or you could get the powder, right? A shop keyword, if I'm selling the pills, for me would be collagen peptide capsules or pills. Collagen peptide powder, although it's related and relevant, it is not my product. So it's not a shop keyword. So the classification that we use and the SOP that our team members use to go and classify all of these keywords is you want to see over 75% of the results on page 1 be your exact product that you're trying to offer, right? Like your competitors. Okay. That's a shop keyword. Like Amazon's already telling you that there's a reason why 75% of your competitors are ranking
money's here
on that, right? Because like the intent is there and that's what customers want and they end up buying it. So that's why they're ranked. Semi-shop is where you get, maybe it's a mixed bag. It's about 50% of the listings on page number 1 are your related, like your competitors or your exact type of product, right? So in the example of, the collagen peptides, right? If you just search collagen peptides, right? That's kind of a more broad keyword. So when you search collagen peptides, you're probably going to see 50% of the results be powder, maybe 50% of the results are going to be these capsules, right? That's a semi-shop keyword, right? It's not super intent focused, but it's certainly relevant and we should be able to rank on page 1 for semi-shop keywords, right? And then the next category that we have, we call them browse specific keywords. So what's a browse specific keyword? This would be something like, again, if we use the collagen peptides analogy, this keyword is going to be, pills, collagen pills for nails, or not even that. Could just be, you know, healthy vitamin for hair and
Yeah.
nails, right?
Basically describing
So,
some activity or behavior that could relate to the product.
yeah, and it's specific, right? You're not,
Yeah.
because then a broad keyword, right? Because that's kind of the last one is we'll talk about, is like a browse keyword. A browse general keyword would be a keyword like supplements
Yeah,
for
that's
men,
it. Super broad. Yeah.
supplements for women. Now there's a ton of search volume for it, and if you can get ranked on
Yeah.
there,
You
that's
kill it.
amazing.
Yeah.
But man, that's a long shot, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
browse specific is like, okay, you can tell people are like, it's kind of a general search term, healthy supplements for, you know, your hair and nails. Okay, well, yeah, collagen peptides work for that. But again, ultimately what you want to see here in order to classify something as browse specific, you've still got about 25% of the listings there on page 1 are your type of product, right?
Okay.
Now, the last step here is that browse keyword. Your browse keyword is your long shot, right? It's going to be super high volume. But what our classification is, we have at least 1 or 2 competitors with our similar type of product being ranked for that keyword. If, like, for example, supplements for men, if you search supplements for men and there is nothing out there for
Like
collagen peptides, that drops off our keyword list. Sorry, not relevant. Like, is ours for men and is it a supplement? Yes, it is, but nobody's ranking for that. So save yourself the money and don't even worry about it. So anyway, so what we do on day 1 is we launch single keyword exact match campaigns for only our shop keywords. That's it. Okay. We launch that. And then the other ad campaign that we will create is single competitor campaigns for product targeting. Okay. So we're going to look at our competitors, anybody that we think is like a true competitor for our product. And if you have multiple variations, right? If you have a pink water bottle, then go find all the water bottles that are pink. If you have a blue water bottle, find all the other water bottles that are blue. You're going to set those up into individual campaigns, 1 competitor per campaign, and then you're going to target them. Now, why do you start with those 2 big campaigns, your shop keywords and then your product targeting? On day 1, you're telling Amazon exactly what your product is about, rather than turning on auto and broad campaigns and just saying, hey, Amazon, I hope your AI has detected what my product is, and I hope that you show it to the right type of person. I mean, Amazon is smart, but you're going to waste a lot of money that way. We do end up
and they will find a way to spend it for sure.
Oh yeah, of course they will. Of course they will. We do end up turning on auto and broad campaigns, but not until about like week 3 or week 4, because at that point, Amazon now knows what your product is, because you've started to make sales on those shop keywords. And then secondly, one of the best things is like when you start to take purchases from competitors, Amazon's like, oh, okay, you stole traffic from this competitor who actually is the number 1 seller. So you're relevant. So now I'm going to actually maybe consider ranking you wherever this guy is ranked, because people continue. And ultimately, this all comes down to conversion rate.
Yeah.
You've got to, you know, and you push the gas if you see this. If your conversion rate, and you'll be able to identify this really quick after week 1 and 2 of these shop keywords, if your conversion rate is higher than what you are finding in the Market Opportunity Explorer on Amazon or the search query performance, where you can go in there and look at like
the baseline, basically
the baseline, right? Collagen peptide, you know, capsules. What is the market conversion rate for that, right? Amazon gives that to you. Whether that's right or not doesn't matter. At least Amazon's giving it to us. If your conversion rate's higher than that, step on the gas. If it's not, then you got to take the time and pull back, and you've got to say, all right, do I need to tweak my pricing? Do I need to adjust my images? Do I need to adjust the product copy? Your main 2 levers are definitely going to be your price and your images. Copy is not going to make that big of an impact, but those are the two levers that you've got to do. So as soon as you launch, and we're by no means perfect at launching, there's plenty of product launches where it's like, we didn't end up with a very good conversion rate.
Yeah.
That product's going to die. And it just dies, right? But when we see something that is working, right, and it has a better conversion rate than the market,
you push the gas.
We step on the gas, and we're all systems go, and then we'll quickly start ranking from there. So that's my overall. I know we could have a whole hour.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was gonna
launches.
say that. I mean, first of all, I totally agree with your strategy. I think you say very well in terms of the fact that at the beginning, Amazon is gonna just be guessing around, and it's better that you actually define what are these keywords and build the history correctly for the product. And I like the fact that the way you basically divide these keywords. I think that's something is the first time I hear it, and it's a very interesting thing that I'm gonna try myself as well and see how it goes, and I'm gonna let you know for sure. But yeah, Josh, I mean, this topic can go for hours, as you say. I mean, you have so much knowledge in this space, and I'm gonna make sure to have you for a second part for sure, so we can go more in depth and even talk around other things such as how you do listing optimization and all of that. But I'm gonna save that for the second part. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for your time and sharing all this with your audience. And I want to use this last minute or so you can also share with us how people can get in contact with you, because I know you also have the Ecom Breakthrough podcast, and maybe people, want to know more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am the host of the Ecom Breakthrough podcast. That's Ecom with 2 M's. And it's available on all the standard podcast platforms, Google, Apple, and Spotify, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
But go take a look at it and listen in. Really, it's targeted for people that want to grow their business from 7 figures to 8 figures and beyond. Mm-hmm. And what I try to do is share actionable strategies, just like I'm doing today.
Yeah.
To say, here are things you can actually go implement in your business today that's going to take your business to the next level. And so we've had, many experts on the podcast. We've had Kevin King on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Howard Ty's been on the podcast. Bradley Sutton, Stephen Pope, Roland Fraser. We've got some guys that know what they're talking about. These are like industry leaders. Steve Simonson. These guys know what they're talking about, and they're kind of pulling back the curtains and sharing actionable takeaways for you to go implement in your business. And that's how I learned, right? Is by listening to a lot of podcasts, watching a lot of courses. And so just trying to give that back to the community, because I'm a believer that there's more than enough opportunities out there, and a rising tide rises all the ships at the same time. And if your followers have any questions, they can shoot me an email to at josh@ecombreakthrough.com.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah. I think for sure, using these channels as a way of learning is key. I mean, that's also how I learn all the strategies and the things I know. And for sure, I recommend everybody that is listening to this episode, go check it out and share some good reviews for him as well. Yeah, on our behalf. So Josh, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to have you again in the future. In the meantime, thank you and have an amazing rest of the day. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Vincenzo.
Take care. Bye-bye.